Hello, friends. This is the Connected Approach podcast, the world's #1 podcast for connected leaders. I'm Chris Curtin.
And I'm Amanda White. Welcome, everyone, to your warm embrace. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Amanda.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and I have a topic for today.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear it. What are we going to talk about today?
Two very valuable concepts, courage and bravery. I know they're both a big part of people's lives and what people want to be for themselves, both personally and in their work and with their friends. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between courage and bravery and
Yeah.
how we can call maybe on each of them as we navigate our own lives and existence.
That sounds wonderful. Do you have something that has come to mind that has you focused in on this that makes it top of mind for you? Or,
Yes. Well, we're in business
Mhm.
and there's a lot of exciting things going on in the business, and there are also so many um, various paths to take for the business as we
Yeah.
work with individuals, as we work with organizations, and the organizations take various um, take various forms, whether that's publicly traded companies, whether that's private employers, whether it's different government entities. And so all things that we've been exploring for our business in 2024. And there are some opportunities that I want to pursue in terms of advancing the footprint of the business and the type of work that we do that are scary, or at least I'm
Yeah.
scared of.
Yeah.
And so it's making me think about how to take next steps or even perform some due diligence without stopping or without
Hmm.
talking myself out of it, and really trying to get at least a firm grip on what we're looking at
Yeah.
without stopping for now. And I do
Okay.
have like a difference between courage and bravery to share. This is, of course, at
Yeah.
the top of
Well,
my
you brought
Google
that.
search here.
Yeah. You brought that up, and of course it makes me think, like, what is the difference between courage and bravery? And so please share. Do you have the what in in your learning is the difference between courage and bravery? And
Yes.
why does that matter? They seem
Right.
pretty like similar terms. If I use courage for one thing, bravery, why does it matter? So what's your definitions?
So, of course, looking at the top of my Google search, and we'll share this in our notes. This is zellalife.com, ZELLA life.com. It's a blog. But I've seen this is a fairly succinct distinction between courage and bravery, and I've seen it
Mhm.
defined and shared like this as well. Courage involves a conscious decision to act despite fear, often driven by a commitment to moral or virtuous values. So,
Mhm.
just to repeat, courage involves a conscious decision to act despite fear. Knowing that there's fear, you go, I'm looking at the fear, I'm making a
Right.
conscious decision to act, even though
Yep.
I'm afraid. On the other hand, bravery is an immediate response to a situation, usually characterized by an absence of fear. And so, those, when you think about soldiers and on a boat and they're about to run onto a beachhead,
Right.
they're acting with bravery. They have no fear, or they are, if they were going to consciously act despite the fear, and maybe they do, maybe they have both, but it's
Yeah.
a brave act is one where you're just reacting and
Yeah.
just just moving without
Almost
fear.
unconsciously, you're just going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And to your point, Amanda, you and I think are always quick to say on the podcast that we do not in any way express our own academic mastery of the topics that we discuss. We are merely practitioners of both, of both the coaching discipline and also, right, the English language and these concepts. And so I'm sure I'm being a little cheeky when I'm saying, I want to act with bravery and not with courage. The bottom
Mhm.
line is probably I want to act with both courage and bravery. The distinction that I'll point out though is that sometimes in my experience, when I do make a conscious decision and catalog my fear and say, oh,
Yeah.
I'm afraid of this. I'm very afraid of this, and now I'm going to act. I never act because I've already listed out all the things, all the fears. And I look at that list and I'm like, oof, geez, all right,
Yeah.
well, maybe I'll be courageous tomorrow. Whereas like if I try not to think about those scary things, I'm more likely to take the next step or take the step forward.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've been trying to train myself on is like, oh, you could be this very thoughtful, courageous person that looks at the fear and is like, wow, going
Yeah.
camping in Yosemite, wow, bears, smelling your toothpaste and arriving at your campsite, that sounds okay to me. I'm sure that I can just act despite that fear. Instead, I'd prefer to not know. Now, I guess, and
Yeah.
just go camping in Yosemite and figure out what happened with the bears. No,
Yeah.
no, I'm teasing, but that's where I get sort of that quandary in my own
Yeah.
mind is like, is it really good to catalog all the fears and then act? Or should I just act?
I find this all so very interesting because I think when you read the definitions of courage versus bravery, it's like not our decision to decide
Mm,
if we're going to act with courage or bravery. I think what my reaction is the situation kind of creates whether you act with bravery or courage. So it almost seems like your example of like, soldiers, they're acting with bravery because like they hardly have any time, they have to just go. A lot of times in what you and I are dealing with, or the example of, like business decisions or personal decisions or whatever, there is more of that time, like there's more of that, okay, there's something on the horizon and I want to go for this. And so you can't act right now because it's out on the horizon. So your mind is automatically just going to keep, trying to sabotage you for that and bring up all these fears. So I feel like it kind of falls more into the definition of courage. At the end of the day, that's where I love these conversations, Chris, because I'm like, does it matter? I mean, the main thing is in both cases, whether you're acting courageously or with bravery, the whole idea of the definition of those words are to not let fear stop you and to move forward instead of, so I don't think you want, I'm when you were talking about like the cataloging of fear, I was kind of feeling like it's a balance. How do you I don't think you want to catalog the fear, but how do you work through that so you can again keep moving forward courageously or with bravery?
well, we talk about in coaching a moment of resonance. And just to reflect back to you, a moment of resonance I just had was your description. It really is about moving forward without fear, whether you're in my mind, right? I say cataloging, whether I'm cataloging the fear or
Right.
oblivious to the fear, it is about moving forward without fear. And
Yeah.
meaning the action for me or the action for the business is about
Right.
moving forward without fear, whether I, once again, catalog it or assess it or see it or don't assess it. It's about
Hmm.
moving forward. And I really appreciate that because I've been doing some due diligence about taking some actions on behalf of the business. And
Yeah.
there's great business advice about not getting stuck in the planning cycle or not getting
Right.
stuck on the, hey, you'd really have to have 100% certainty or 100%
Yeah.
funding or 100% confirmation before moving to that phase. And there, are some great, um, business minds that say, don't don't get yourself caught all the time in
Yeah.
a planning, either a planning process or in a due diligence phase, so
Yeah.
that you can act.
Yeah. Whether you're trying, I don't know that we can, even in a brave situation, I don't know that we can really, the act of making sure that the fear doesn't overtake you is what we always talk about with this positive intelligence and building that mental fitness, mental awareness. And so the fear will come up. And I don't know that the fear doesn't come up when you're acting brave. It just is such a, more instantaneous act that you have less time to, like kind of go through those cycles over and over. So it does get back to how can you keep moving forward and be courageous or brave in the moment? And that is the work of making sure that you're clear on the direction that you want to take in life. And you're super aware of the things that have developed over time that are easy targets to take you off that path and to say, no, like I'm not going to get caught up in this due diligence, rabbit hole, which turns into a whole fear spiral. And it's okay to dip down, because I think there's learning in all of those paths, but how do you bring yourself up to keep moving forward?
Mm.
Because you don't want to just be like, no, I'm not doing any due diligence. I'm not doing any of
Right,
that stuff
right,
because I'm going to
exactly.
be brave and move forward. That might not be so prudent, right?
Right. Well, it's funny. I mean, just going back to, the example of not doing any due diligence before heading to Yosemite for a camping outing.
Yeah, right.
Clearly, we are advising all viewers and listeners to do your due diligence
Yeah.
and be prudent, right?
Mhm.
Um, Perhaps it is about conversations like this where you just toss the ball back and forth with some of these terms,
Yeah.
terms like courage, terms like bravery, and thank you, your help of saying, hey, instead of, you know, putting this into a mystery wrapped in a riddle, it's about acting without fear. And
Mhm.
whether that's it's being considered or things are happening so fast that you're just reacting to something immediately, and one's courageous and one's brave. If you're resolved to act and you're able to leverage your positive mindset to pursue that action, not
Yeah,
to act without any prudence, but to pursue that action, then lean into that,
right.
and don't get caught
Yeah.
analyzing the words. And oh, by the way, that's also a form of paralysis by analysis.
That's fear in and of itself, right? Yeah.
Yes. Oh, well, and it's at least stopping if it's not anything else,
Right.
and not making forward progress,
Yeah.
which is the key to, which is the overall goal, is to be efficient and moving in a straight line toward purpose, toward positive mindset, toward sage.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think that it is possible to get rid of all the fear. It's very similar to what we have talked about before. It's just that you're able to move through those cycles more quickly, right? So it's not that if we talk more about the positive intelligence and some of the things that we've talked about previously, it's like something that would get you hung up for maybe 3 days and just kind of like your mind would just circulate on um now as you are more aware and you've built up that kind of mental strength, you can move through it in an hour, or in no time. And so I see that with fear too, right? Fear is one of those sabotaging, it is the biggest sabotaging thought that we have. And so, how do you kind of grab it and say, gotcha? And, I'll do my little, I'll run it to ground and then get back on the path. So I think it's hard not to, I think it's hard to get it complete, like no, have no fear. And it's not that fear is a bad thing either, right? It helps us just do a gut check on if we're still on the right path.
or what the right path might be, right? If we're listening
Right.
to that signal.
Right. But it's interesting, Chris. I mean, this hat, I love the conversation because we've danced around these terms before because I'll usually probably say more courage. You're like, no, it's bravery, like bravery versus courage. And I'm always kind of like, oh, does it matter? Is there a difference? So I appreciate just walking through this and understanding the true definition and maybe how it applies. And really, at the end of the day, does it matter all that much because they are similar enough, but it's more the, I don't know, the messiness in the middle, that you have to work through to just make sure that you know, again, you're moving forward.
Right, right. I mean, not that I'm wearing a no fear T-shirt. I know that was a brand or something, right? At some point, maybe it's still a brand. I'm not sure, but there's always fear, whether you recognize it or not. Um, it's about properly acting with the right mindset.
Yeah. It's
Um,
actually all fear.
yeah,
It's all fear, disguised in due diligence, disguised in control, disguised in all these different suits, right? So, but at the end of the day, and we know this in coaching, right? The end of the day, when you start to really like peel that back, it's like because I'm scared, because I'm worried I'm going to like fail, or I'm worried I'm going to do this. That's all fear.
mhm.
So, you don't I don't think we get I think that's life. I don't think we get away from fear. It's just how do we identify it and move through it more quickly and
Mm.
don't let it take control of us.
Well, Amanda, I think that's such a well stated lesson that I think that's our conversation for today. Um,
Yeah, it's so funny like as we talked about this, it was like, okay, this is a good one cuz like I said, we go back and forth a bit, but it's been all these conversations with you, Chris, is a good learning. And hopefully it's a learning for our viewers as well. And um, as we've stated before, we'd love to hear any feedback on what our viewers think of courage versus bravery and the whole concept of fear. So let's keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. I'm with you, Amanda. As for our viewers and our listeners, we look forward to talking with you again soon. Until then, lead well, my friends.
And stay true to you. Bye bye.